In the shadowed cloisters of medieval Europe, where faith battled doubt and darkness sought to overwhelm the light, a singular voice rose above the silence. Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, a man of profound wisdom, fierce devotion, and fiery eloquence, Bernard became a beacon for a restless age, guiding souls through tempestuous times with the steady flame of his faith. Born into nobility, yet choosing the austere life of a monk, Bernard's journey was one of transformation, sacrifice, and unyielding commitment to the Church. His words echoed through cathedrals and councils, stirring kings, popes, and common folk alike, calling them to a deeper love of God and a purer walk of holiness. Join us as we embark on this epic tale, tracing the life of a saint whose heart blazed with divine fire, whose mind shaped the course of Christian thought, and whose legacy still inspires courage, wisdom, and faith centuries later. This is the story of Saint Bernard, the Abbot, the Doctor, the Light in the Dark. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Visionary. In the year 1090, amid the rolling hills and quiet forests of Burgundy, France, was born a boy destined to change the spiritual landscape of Europe. Bernard of Clairvaux entered the world as the son of a noble family, a life surrounded by privilege and expectation. Yet, from his earliest days, there was a fire within him, a hunger not for power or wealth, but for truth, purity, and a deeper union with God. Raised in a world still wrestling with the aftershocks of the Crusades and the reforms shaking the Church, young Bernard showed a restless spirit. Unlike many of his peers, he was drawn not to worldly pleasures but to the stories of saints, martyrs, and monastic heroes. His heart yearned for a life beyond the comforts of nobility, a life dedicated entirely to the divine. At the tender age of 22, despite his family's hopes for him to embrace the path of knighthood or governance, Bernard made a radical choice. He renounced his inheritance, his worldly titles, and wealth, stepping instead into the austere, demanding life of a Cistercian monk at the Abbey of Citeaux. There, amid stone walls and silent prayers, the seeds of his remarkable journey began to take root. Bernard's zeal was contagious. His devotion inspired many, and soon he became the driving force behind the founding of a new monastery at Clairvaux, a place that would become a beacon of spiritual renewal and reform. His vision was clear: a church purified, a faith lived with passion, and a world drawn closer to the mercy and love of God. This was no mere monk retreating from the world. Bernard was a warrior of the Spirit, armed with prayer, intellect, and a voice that would soon echo across kingdoms and continents. The birth of this visionary was the dawn of a new era, a time when faith could move mountains and the power of holiness could shake empires. Chapter 2. The Call to Reform. At Clairvaux, Bernard's spirit found its true home. The monastery was not just a place of quiet contemplation, but a battleground for the soul. Here, Bernard embraced the austere Cistercian way: hard work, strict discipline, and deep prayer, transforming the simple stone abbey into a beacon of holiness. But Bernard's mission stretched far beyond the cloister walls. The Church in the 12th century was rife with corruption, worldliness, and division. Popes and kings alike wrestled for power, while many faithful struggled to find true spiritual guidance. Bernard sensed a divine calling to be a reformer, a voice that would call the Church back to its purest roots. With fiery sermons and compelling writings, Bernard ignited a spiritual awakening. His words reached not only monks and priests, but kings, nobles, and even the common people. He challenged the powerful and comforted the humble, always urging a return to humility, charity, and true faith. When the Pope called for a new crusade to reclaim the Holy Land, Bernard answered without hesitation. He traveled across Europe, stirring crowds with his passionate preaching. His voice carried the weight of conviction, inspiring thousands to take up the cross and join the fight, not only for land but for the soul of Christendom. Bernard's influence grew rapidly. Monasteries blossomed, spiritual fervor rekindled, and the Church found in him a fearless defender and wise counselor. Yet beneath the power and reverence lay a humble man, ever conscious of his dependence on God's grace. This was just the beginning. Bernard's journey as a monk had transformed into a mission to renew a continent. The path ahead was filled with challenges, but his faith was unshakable and his vision unstoppable. Pre-Gunter, ChatGPT. Chapter 3. The Voice of Authority. Bernard of Clairvaux's reputation as a spiritual giant spread far and wide. Kings sought his counsel, bishops requested his guidance, and even the Pope himself relied on his wisdom. But with great influence came great responsibility and fierce opposition. The Church was a turbulent sea of politics and power struggles. Some envied Bernard's authority, while others feared the purity of his message. Yet Bernard remained steadfast, a rock of faith amidst the storm. He believed that the true strength of the Church lay not in earthly power, but in holiness and unity. When heresies began to spread, challenging the core of Christian doctrine, Bernard rose as a fearless defender. His writings and sermons cut through confusion like a sword, clarifying the truth and rallying the faithful. The fight was not only intellectual, but deeply spiritual. Bernard understood that behind every error lay a darkness that sought to divide and destroy. At the Council of Sins, Bernard faced off against powerful opponents, defending the Church's teachings with clarity and passion. His eloquence moved many, silenced some, and inspired all who listened. It was a battle of words, but the stakes were eternal. Yet Bernard was more than a warrior of doctrine. He was a humble servant of God. His deep prayer life and ascetic discipline nourished his soul and sustained his mission. He taught that true authority comes from God alone, and that leaders must serve with love and humility. Through triumphs and trials, Bernard's voice remained clear: to love God above all, to seek the salvation of souls, and to build a church united in faith and charity. His legacy was not just in battles won, but in hearts transformed. Chapter 4. The Light of Contemplation. Beyond the battles and sermons, Bernard of Clairvaux was a man deeply drawn to the mysteries of God's love. He believed that true wisdom was born not only from knowledge, but from an intimate, contemplative union with the divine. In the quiet solitude of his abbey, Bernard sought the light that shines in the depths of the soul. His writings reveal a heart aflame with divine love, a soul thirsty for God's presence beyond all understanding. To him, contemplation was the secret path to peace and power, the power to transform the world starting within oneself. Bernard's treatises on the love of God became timeless masterpieces. He spoke of the soul's journey as a fiery ascent, a dance of grace that leads to perfect union with the Creator. This was no distant, abstract theology. It was a living, breathing experience that filled every fiber of his being. He urged his brothers in the monastery and all believers to open their hearts to this transformative fire. The world outside might rage with conflict, but the true battle was within, to conquer fear, doubt, and selfishness through the light of faith and love. His mystical vision inspired not only monks but kings and common folk alike. People traveled great distances to hear him speak, to be touched by his radiant faith and humility. Bernard showed that holiness was not reserved for the few, but a calling for all who dared to seek God with all their heart. In the darkness of a troubled age, Bernard's contemplative light burned bright, a beacon of hope, a source of strength, and a call to rise above worldly strife towards eternal truth. As we conclude the story of Saint Bernard, Abbot and Doctor of the Church, we reflect on a life marked by profound faith, wisdom, and unwavering dedication to God. His teachings continue to illuminate the path for countless souls seeking contemplation and divine truth. Thank you for listening and for accompanying us on this journey through the life of a true spiritual giant. If you found inspiration in this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more epic tales of faith and courage. May the light of Saint Bernard guide you always.